Welcome back to Hiking with Kathleen. In today's video, I'll show you the reason I love being in southwestern Ontario. We're back now after having been on the road camping for the last month and a bit. And we've been back at home for a couple of weeks, and we had a tremendous rainfall 2 days ago, and some areas of Ontario had it again yesterday. So I'm going to go down to the river and I'm going to have a look and see how flooded it is. But I'm looking forward to seeing the great variety of wildlife that we have here in southwestern Ontario. So I'm out here exploring this morning. We had record rainfall. So in London, I'm going to have to get you the figure, but I think it was 75 millimeters of water on Monday. This is Thursday. I went on a hike yesterday, captured some drone footage of the Thames River, and that was on Wednesday. So that was showing how the water was flowing downstream. Toronto on Tuesday had 125 or so millimeters of water dropped on them. So that water is still working its way into the system. And I'm coming along, hiking along one of my favorite haunts where I almost always capture wildlife. This water is traveling too fast to allow animals to just comfortably swim along. So I thought if I hang out in the areas that are a little bit more protected, I might have some luck. So I'm going to continue to do that. But when water is traveling this fast, the animals that normally live in this waterbed area can manage some currents, but not to this extent. So it's disruptive. It's carved new pathways on the landscape. You can see there's a lot of trees, young trees and plants that are just sort of flattened. Some of them will probably spring back just fine. Trees aren't going to spring back that have had the water swept away from the root system, leaving them with really nothing to help anchor them. So there'll be a lot more fallen trees that I will see as I walk along this trek. So water is a thing we all need, but in moderation. Another thing I should mention is what's very unfortunate is a lot of neighbors in our particular vicinity suffered water as a form of flooding in their basements. We've gone through that in the past. We didn't have any this time. Fortunately, we were at home in order to monitor it. We were home from our camping season. But that is such a negative repercussion. I can imagine all of our insurance home and auto insurance rates are going to skyrocket next year on renewal because some people, especially in the Toronto area, the water levels were incredibly high that it was, swallowing up cars. We're not used to this. We don't get monsoons. Anyway, okay, I'm going to continue exploring today. I'm getting so much out of this hike today, and it's not just because I'm immersed in nature, it's also because of the people I run into. Yes, I love hiking alone. Yes, I'm often out here for hours before I see anybody. But today in particular, because this is one of my usual trails, this is one where I was looking forward to running into familiar faces because I haven't been on the trails in southwestern Ontario for the last month and a half because of our camping trips that were lined up and coming home and doing all the video editing. So today I ran into Jerry. He is a retired university professor who taught me one of my courses in university when I was at Western. I see him fairly regularly when I come through these woods. Another person I see regularly is Joan with her dog Bo. And so we had a really nice opportunity to catch up out here. And Just a short while ago, I parted ways with 3 sisters that are hikers. So they often hike together. I see them on various trails around southwestern Ontario, and they are such a delight. They watch my YouTube channels, so they often will be caught up with the episodes. So we talked about the most recent one and what's coming up. So anyway, it just gives me a wonderful feeling of being welcomed back home, because I'm seeing all these familiar faces and just catching up like you do with friends. I love these wild fields where wildflowers are growing rampantly, and therefore insects have a plethora of food to choose from. So this is really beautiful. At the time of this filming, it's about the 3rd week of July. So this is the kind of reward. After going through the summer and the heat and the rain and everything, this is the reward, that you get to see this beauty all around us. So I filmed a lot of insects, and I hope you enjoy that. You know, I find insects to be rather fascinating. Simply their way of getting around, their habits, how they catch prey or how they eat the food that they require in order to survive. But we're also dependent on insects. We may not feel that we are, but for example, honeybees. Honeybees are at the root of the pollination system that is what makes it possible for a lot of our crops to grow. So we have to be so careful about allowing insects to have a food source. And when we put out flowers in our garden, or when we allow wildflowers to grow amongst the weeds in our lawn, we have to let them all grow uncontaminated with pesticides, because killing off insects means that it's non-specific and could in fact be killing off the one thing that's helping to keep our food supply possible. So I'm concerned about the state of things, because I know I used to maintain a green yard. And I used to worry about getting rid of the weeds and being very meticulous that way. And I've really given it some more thought in recent years. And I allow the garden and the garden to flourish with some weeds, and certainly the lawn, because my number one concern is making sure that things like honeybees can continue to survive, because their survival is what will contribute to our survival. So anyway, I come out to a place like this and it's all overgrown with wildflowers, and I love it. There's a mecca of activity that's going on the flowers, but also in between, you know, the animals that live below the flowers, because it provides great cover. Yeah, just a beautiful morning. Well, I think I'm going to head home now. So I've had a chance to do a good lookabout on this particular trail. The area of the trail that I'm walking along is not one that's maintained, so the trail is not very wide. This is a really good place for the black-legged tick to hang out. Ticks will just hang on the edge of foliage that lines trails in the hopes of finding a blood meal as you walk by. So when I get home, I'm going to make sure I check carefully to see if any ticks have climbed onto my clothing. So just a pointer that when you're in an area that doesn't have wide enough trails, something for you to consider doing too. This is not the Thames River. This is an offshoot that feeds into the Thames River. But when you figure all the rain that fell not only in southwestern Ontario, but also the next day in Toronto, it's all got to go somewhere, so it's just flowing through. And people who are west of us, they're going to have a lot more than this. This area is just saturated, and it's going to take some time for the ground here to dry out. You can see all the plants look water swept, kind of like wind swept, but you can see the mud that has caked the plants because the riverbank was so much higher even yesterday. And that's probably why I'm not seeing a lot of animal activity. The current is too fast, it's too dangerous. Deer and other large animals, they can't cross this without worrying about risking their lives because they could potentially get swept away. will settle down. But it's going to take some time for this to drain back to the normal level of water.